All right, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into an absolutely epic, action-packed true story straight out of ancient Egypt. We're going to travel back in time to a world of massive pyramids, glittering golden palaces, and seriously, some of the most incredible miracles you will ever hear about. This is the story of Exodus chapter 9. It's packed with terrifying storms, super itchy magic tricks, and a massive battle of wills. So are you ready? Let's get into it.
Okay, let's take a quick look at the map for our 5 epic chapters today. We've got Chapter 1, the stubborn king of Egypt. Chapter 2, the plague of sick animals. Chapter 3, ashes turn to itchy sores. Chapter 4, the giant fiery hailstorm. And Chapter 5, the big lessons we learned.
Chapter 1, the stubborn king of Egypt.
So in ancient Egypt, the king was called a pharaoh. He commanded entire armies, sat on this huge golden throne, and pretty much thought nobody on earth could tell him what to do. Now, I want you to think about this for a second. Have you ever been warned to stop doing something? Like maybe someone told you not to touch a hot stove or not to jump on the bed, but you just wouldn't listen, and you did it anyway and then got into trouble. Well, imagine being the king of a whole country and having that exact same grumpy, stubborn attitude. What do you think happens when a stubborn king like that completely ignores a giant warning from God?
Well, a man named Moses literally marched right up to Pharaoh and delivered this massive warning, straight from Adonai, the God of the Hebrews. And the message was crystal clear: let my people go so that they can worship me. See, God was demanding absolute freedom for the Israelites, who were being forced to work incredibly hard as slaves for Pharaoh. Moses warned him right then and there that if he kept holding on to them, something terrible was going to happen the very next day.
Chapter 2, the plague of sick animals. Of course, Pharaoh said no, and because he refused, God sent this sweeping sickness all over the fields. Look at the stark difference here. On one side, we see the Egyptian livestock out in the fields, the horses, the donkeys, the camels, cattle, flocks, the whole shebang. They were all struck with this devastating illness, and the livestock of Egypt died. But on the other side, look at the animals belonging to the Israelites. God promised to make a clear distinction between the two, literally putting an invisible shield of protection over his people's animals.
And here is the absolute craziest part of this. Exactly 0 animals belonging to the people of Israel died. Literally not a single one. While the Egyptian fields were just empty and quiet, the Israelite animals were happily grazing under a bright sunny sky. This was a massive, undeniable miracle, proving God's immense power. So what does Pharaoh do? He actually sends people out to go investigate. He wanted to know for sure if it was really true that the Israelites' animals were perfectly fine. And guess what? He found out that not even one of their animals had died. But even after seeing this mind-blowing miracle with his own 2 eyes, Pharaoh just crosses his arms, his heart remains completely stubborn, and he still refuses to let the people go. Chapter 3. Ashes turn to itchy sores. All right, because Pharaoh still wouldn't listen, things are about to get literally very, very itchy. God told Moses and Aaron to do these exact steps right in front of Pharaoh's eyes. First, they scoop up handfuls of soot from a hot, fiery kiln. Second, Moses stands right in front of the stubborn king and tosses those ashes high into the air. And third, those ashes turn into this fine dust that spreads over the entire land, breaking out into super itchy, infected sores on all the people and animals in Egypt. Guys, it was so bad that Pharaoh's own magic men, his top magicians, couldn't even stand up in front of Moses. Can you imagine trying to look all tough and powerful when you're just wiggling and scratching everywhere because you are covered head to toe in itchy sores? They literally had to run away. But, as our source tells us, God hardened Pharaoh's heart so that he still wouldn't listen to them.
Chapter 4, the giant fiery hailstorm.
Since Pharaoh's heart was still rock hard, God was preparing to show his absolute, undeniable power over all the earth. God sent Moses to deliver this truly terrifying warning. Tomorrow, about this time, I will cause a hailstorm so heavy that Egypt has had nothing like it from the day it was founded until now. Now, hail is like giant balls of ice falling from the sky. But this wasn't just your everyday ice storm. God told them flat out that anyone or anything left outside was not going to survive. But amazingly, God also gave them a way out. See, God didn't just ambush them with a storm out of nowhere. Check out this timeline. First, the warning is given. Second,
God gives them plenty of time, like a whole day, to hurry up and bring all their servants and livestock safely indoors. Third, the storm would hit the very next day. So God is actually showing amazing grace here by giving them a real chance to escape to safety. So the people in Egypt literally had a choice to make. On one side, we see the smart servants of Pharaoh. They feared what God had said, so they hustled and brought their servants and livestock safely inside their houses. But on the other side, we have the foolish servants who had zero regard for God's warning. They totally ignored it and left everything exposed out in the dangerous fields. And then, the next day arrives. Moses reaches out his hand and his staff toward the sky, and boom, the most terrible storm in the history of the entire nation begins. Adonai sends this deafening, roaring thunder. Giant hail starts crashing down. And the wildest part of all, fire is literally flashing up and running down to the earth right in the middle of the hail. We're talking ice and fire mixing together in a storm way worse than Egypt had ever seen. Let's look at the sheer scale of destruction this fiery storm caused. The hail struck down all the people and animals that foolishly stayed out in the field. It broke every single tree and struck down every plant. The flax and the barley crops completely ruined because they were already fully grown and ripe. But interestingly, the wheat and the buckwheat were perfectly safe. Why? Because they hadn't grown up yet. They were still safely hiding underground, waiting to sprout up later.
But wait, what about Moses and all the Israelites? Well, just like with the sick animals, God made a clear distinction. Down in the land of Goshen, where the people of Israel lived, there was absolutely no hail, zero. The sky was completely clear, the fields were lush and green, and there was just perfect peace. God provided his divine protection for his people once again.
The thunder and fiery hail were so incredibly loud and terrifying that Pharaoh finally cracks. He quickly summons Moses and Aaron and just cries out, "This time I have sinned. Adonai is in the right. I and my people are in the wrong." He desperately begs Moses to create a god to stop the terrible thunder, promising that he would finally actually let the people go. So, Moses agrees. He tells Pharaoh he's going to spread his hands to God as soon as he leaves the city, and the thunder and hail will end, specifically to prove that the entire earth belongs to God. And guess what happens? The rain stops, the hail completely ends. But the very second Pharaoh sees those clear blue skies, what does he do? He uses his free will to harden his heart all over again. He completely breaks his promise and still won't let the people go. Unbelievable, right? Chapter 5, The Big Lessons We Learned. Wow, what an absolute roller coaster of an adventure. But let's unpack the really important food for thought from this explainer, because there are some massive takeaways here. First up, pride leads to destruction. Pharaoh repeatedly refused to humble himself, and his persistent stubbornness only brought way more suffering to his whole nation. Second, God's supreme power and purpose. God proves he has complete control over nature and human rulers, using this moment to make his name known worldwide. Third, divine protection. God clearly makes a distinction and protects his chosen people. Fourth, grace before judgment. And fifth, free will and consequences. This whole story perfectly shows how human choices interact with divine will, and that God hardens those who repeatedly harden their own hearts. Let's look a little closer at that fourth point, because it's honestly the most amazing takeaway: grace before judgment. Even though Pharaoh was so stubborn and rebellious, God consistently warned him before unleashing every single plague. He gave him the exact time it would happen, and even told people exactly how to hide to stay safe. This completely showcases God's incredible patience and grace. It proves that the heavy judgment only came as a direct consequence of continued willful rebellion. God always offers a chance to do the right thing before things get bad. So, the next time you get a warning to change your ways, will you harden your heart like Pharaoh, or will you choose to listen? Click the bell button, like, share, and subscribe.